move on to the second point, with that, having said that, what implications does this have on managers and senior leaders?
Yeah.
Because if you can imagine, it's confusing. There is so much technology. There are so many teams. There is so much going on. So what are your sort of key points there to help managers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest challenges going to be facing the future of specifically kind of like the middle manager is how to manage remote teams. So this is so hard because normally, like traditionally, everyone's in the same office. You do your stand up, like you got this kind of office mentality where there's all the even inside jokes, like the culture just grows because you're all hanging out. Like you see each other walking in the halls, that type of stuff. But now with remote work, you're seeing like you're there for meetings and then you kind of go do your own work and then you're back for meetings. And so then you're always meeting in this very professional context. And there's a lack of that social context, which creates like the inclusive space and helps people kind of relate to each other. And like, yeah, like
Wow.
that's a big challenge. And so something, a couple tips that I've gathered from different HR folks and what they're doing is finding ways to create those like inside jokes or water cool, like casual conversation outside of these meetings. So there's one like clear cut example was creating a Slack channel around like, it was like funny Tuesdays or something like that. And she would switch up the theme every week. Like one week it would be like your worst childhood haircut, or like another week would be like the worst date you went on, or something like fun and just like casual conversation, stuff like this, where you start to build up these inside jokes and you build that culture while still being remote. So that's kind of one look at there for managing remote teams. And another part that I'd touch on here is relating specifically to diversity and having diverse workforces. You want to focus your hiring process not around culture fit, which it traditionally has been a big piece, has been around, oh, let's get the right fit for our culture, but rather culture add. So adding to your culture, adding different perspectives, unique points of view that are going to help you create better solutions. You're going to get more innovative problem solving. And this filters down to your marketing, sales, product, everything throughout your business. And so it's a huge important piece with this growingly diverse workforce is like, okay, let's focus on adding things to our culture. And then I guess the last thing that I want to touch on there is creating spaces that are inclusive for people of all backgrounds and people that feel, so they can feel like they belong in that workplace. And so this is not, so I want to be clear, this is not like tokenizing someone. So like having like, oh, this is like the one person of color in our office and let's like celebrate them, make sure that like that's like that,
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it's just not real. And so it's like, let's like create positive conversations in the workplace so that people feel safe to bring up their opinions, their concerns. And as leaders, make sure that you're asking for feedback. So I think this is one thing I'll touch on in the next part as well, but it's like really important for senior leaders to be expressively asking for feedback, because otherwise that power dynamic will not be like, there won't naturally come up this opportunity for like employees further down in the hierarchy to give feedback, just because that they're worried. Like you don't want to say something wrong to your like boss's boss for fear of getting punished. So yeah, that's a couple of the points that I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is fantastic, because I do not disagree with any of those points, especially the inclusion bit. For me, one of the key points that I would like to tell managers to do is to basically add trust and have empathy in their communication, especially when the teams are remote or they're not non-permanent staff, there are graduates as part of this total people agenda. I feel that businesses, for some reason, or business managers or hiring managers or teams become so focused on goals that they actually forget to add empathy to goals, which actually makes people a lot more productive. And there is a key element that is missing with remote workers is trust aspect. I think many businesses, when you touch on the culture point, I think many businesses today are still stuck in no, we don't want remote working as much, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, is because they don't trust their employees and their colleagues. And if you don't trust people, why hire them? Is my question, right? So for me, the implications of having a global open source or this augmented workforce is the ability to be able to trust them and be empathetic in your conversations and communication. So that sort of creates this whole diversity and inclusive atmosphere that you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.